everyone. My name is Tammy. Welcome back to Shea Butter Adventures. Today, we're going to be venturing into the wonderful world of how to choose a state, how to choose a U.S. state. So, at this point, you're probably starting to make your plans. Like I say, we got a plan. You have to plan. You have to make it make sense. So, if you're going to move, you need to have a state that you're going to move to. In one of my TikTok videos I posted recently, I just was basically saying that the state, you don't want to choose a state willy-nilly. You don't want to choose a state just to get out of the country that you're in. You need to make it make sense. New York looks pretty on TV, very nice. Times Square, I've been there, done that a few times. It looks nice, very expensive. California, all of the movie stars, very pretty, upscale, very expensive. Um, Alaska scenery is amazing. Haven't been there, want to go, very expensive. Hawaii, beautiful place. I want to go so bad, very expensive. So, certain places, you have to really consider the cost of living when it's time for you to move. And then there's taxes. So, the US has a tax for every single thing. They have a federal income tax. Well, they have a federal tax. I don't think it's an income tax, like a federal tax, state income tax, Medicare tax, Social Security tax. They have a tax for everything. So by the time you get your pay and it's taxed, the money you get back is honestly not as pretty as it looks back when you're back home. So you have to consider all of those taxes. So federal tax, that just basically varies based on your salary income. But one of the taxes you really have to worry about would be your income tax. So some states do not have an income tax. Some states off the bat that I know for sure don't have an income tax would be like Tennessee and Florida, I think. I'll list all the states I'm on the screen that don't have an income tax. So you might say, okay, I just won't go to the states that have an income tax. That way I'll save money on taxes. So some states are, the cost of living is still relatively good on states that don't have an income tax, like Texas doesn't have an income tax. A lot of people want to move to Texas. The cost of living there in certain areas is actually pretty good. Cost of living in other areas, not so much. So certain states are really big. So you have to look at the cost of living. Texas is huge. You might find a cheaper cost of living in a smaller town or more away from the city, more rural than you would more in the city. So think about where it is that you're going to move. So with your agency, they should tell you where the hospital is before you go. And if you're with a decent agency, they should give you the option to decline or accept your offer. They shouldn't just tell you where it is that you're going. So research before you go. Research the state income tax. Research the cost of living. If you are moving, you and say two of your kids, and it's important for you guys to have at least a 2-bedroom house, or maybe your kids are older, so you need a 3-bedroom house. And 3-bedroom houses in that area cost like $2,500 to rent, and you went with an agency that didn't give you $32 like MedPro does, or $30 like Avon does, and Passport USA does. So if you go with an agency like O'Grady that pays you what's it called, prevailing wage, and you go to a place that's like Norfolk, Virginia, where 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartments or houses could cost you upwards of $2,000, then maybe you don't want to choose Virginia. Maybe you don't want to choose New York. Maybe you don't want to choose California, because you're not going to be making the same amount of money as everybody else, which means you're not going to afford what other people could afford. So think about cost of living. Think about your state income tax. Think about the neighborhood. We tend to get caught up with what we see on TV or what we see in the US, and we see the glamorous living and stuff like that. But you come over here with a plan. You don't come to the US to move just to move. You're supposed to come with a plan, I hope. So if you come over here to say, I'm going to come over here to save some money, maybe you don't want to go to the city. The city is notoriously expensive. So you got to think about stuff like that. Think about the crime. Think about if you're willing to give up certain things. Maybe you don't want to live in the city. Maybe you need to live in the city, or maybe you need rural. Think about what those certain things is going to cost you. So if you live in the city, chances are you're going to have bus transportation, which means if you don't care, you could catch a bus to and from work, especially if you plan out right in terms of where you're gonna live and stuff like that. You catch a bus, you don't even have to buy a car, which saves you money in the long run. But it also sort of, you get charged for that because like living in the city is expensive. So you see, like, you weigh the pros and the cons. So if you live in a more rural area, you might save a bit more on other things, but you're gonna spend money because more than likely you're gonna need a car. So certain stuff like that. That's why when people ask me, what state do you think I should move to? I'm like, there's so much different factors for you to consider when it's time for you to move, like when it's time for you to like go. Like I didn't have to consider high schools in my area, but you might have to consider high schools because you have a kid. I don't have to consider daycare, but you may have to consider daycare because you have a child. Like those are so many different things. I don't even really see daycares in my area, but you would have to do research for daycares in your area. Like when you ask someone like what state should I go to, I only can tell you the states that I know people usually scream out and be like, do not come here. It is very expensive. It is hard. So like New York is one of those states people be like, don't go to. California, Hawaii, Alaska. Very pretty to visit. But if you're already coming here and not making the same amount as other nurses, then maybe you should not live in those states. I feel like sometimes it's like a little bit easy for us to be like, I just want to impress people back home. I want them to see, I'm making it. It ain't that serious. Let's take a deep breath. Let's consider all the options. Let's consider crime. Let's consider housing. Let's consider the cost of living. Let's consider to and from work transportation. Some people you've never driven in your country before. Do not come to a rural area where you don't feel comfortable driving and it might take you 35 to 45 minutes to get to work and you don't like to drive. Like certain things like that you have to think about before you get here. Maybe your son or a daughter is about to go to college and there are no colleges in your area. Like you have to think about certain things. So don't just look at like, oh my gosh, I got a job offer. You have to look at every single thing. And with those things, you could literally Google it. You could be like cost of living in Alabama, insert city before that. And I'll be like, they will compare the cost of living in Alabama to like other places. You just have to learn to Google. Learn to go online, learn to Google, compare the cost of living of one place to another place, compare rent, look at rent prices. There's an online link. I'll leave it in the description. If you already know how much it is you're going to be getting paid, you could put that salary in like this calculator and it'll show you how much money you're actually going to make after taxes approximately. So based on that money, you could decide, can I afford the $2,000 apartment or should I just go with the $1,000 studio that's not as cute? So like certain stuff like that, you have to consider all your options. Don't just rush into it. I feel like the more problems people get into is when they be like, I just want to go. I'm tired. Like, I want to leave. I just need to go. And then when you say you just need to go, they're going to put you someplace that you just went. And it's not going to be good. Remember, you're going to be locked into a contract for years, 2 to 3 years. You don't need to be up in a place where you're not comfortable. Okay? Okay, good. Once again, my name is Tammy. And this is Shea Butter Adventures. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment, please. If you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comment box below, or you can send me them on Instagram. Now, I'm getting a little bit more questions now, so it's getting a little bit, what I want to say, slow in answering. But give me some time. I'll reach them. Yeah. Happy venturing.